I'm foreseeing that this video is probably going to get taken down. I could be wrong. I'm just being realistic about some of the topics, and if not, hopefully the video remains up. As I discussed on my Patreon on Sunday, there are certain angles that I'm not going to be going super deep into here. I'm going to be focused on something a little bit different, but I'm going to go ahead and run the intro. That way we can just rip the band-aid off, so hold on to your butts.
Bitch, you know the scope is murder when I'm crossing through your fucking hood. Bullies with them bullies, banging the set is still up to no good. Bring the pump, leaving the body inside of the trunk. You better get slumped, make a little body and leave it in trunk. Slow to the phone, rolling the snow. West side, jumping out the whip with a full clip, then I let it bust with a deadly touch. Get him duck as fuck, don't get stuck by the devil's son. Curse and burn by the flames, this ain't in the range, I'm bringing the pain. Look in the brain, I don't give a fuck. Hang on myself, then cut in the vein. It's a stick up, my chopper do the hiccup. Pull up with a quete and 5 prices in the pickup. Long hair dragon with the silverback gorilla. Keystone the prince down south to North Khalifa. Ain't shit change, walking around with my teaser. Homies keep the thing, Cholo trying to get their visa. Swiping, no swiping, MasterCard or the Visa. Simon get slime, fuck boy, it's a season. I'm ready to die for Trump.
Alright, so what are we talking about today? As I stated in the short video teaser that I provided, which offended a lot of people, like, oh, like I didn't provide any information. Yeah, no shit. Small creators or researchers, we have to promote ourselves. What I am going to be talking about today is completely original work by me, all by myself. It is not out here, but this is information that you can find if you look hard enough. My intention is not to dox anybody, but what I am going to lay out today, I went through with a fine-tooth comb, and I don't really care how you feel about it. It's not my problem. Obviously, we're talking about Candace Owens, and people have left some comments because, over on Operation GCD, he has that game, Who is Your Daddy and What Does He Do, right? It works every time. So we have a long way to go, until I get there. We have to take a certain journey, okay, in order to get to who her father is. I have to lay out this groundwork. So let's go ahead and let us begin. This is from the way back, okay, so this is Black Past, Candace Owens, published April 13th, 2019. We're going to see a lot of repetitive information, and I am not reading through all of this, okay? I am going to be pointing to these things. That way you can see the little chestnuts that vary in different articles depending on who's doing the interview. That way you can see how I got to where I got to, okay? At this time, she was the communications director for Turning Point USA. Right here it says, Owens was born in White Plains, New York, but grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, raised mainly by her mother, her parents being divorced. Upon graduating from Stanford High, Owens attended the University of Rhode Island with an intended major in journalism, but left after her junior year. Now again, we're going to see this is all going to change invariably. That's the basic profile that I wanted to start with, okay? And I included the entire thing. That way you can see I'm not, cherry picking anything. Let's go on to the next one. This is from the Connecticut Post. This is September 15th, 2018, from Emily Munson, Candace Owens, from Stanford High victim to conservative firebrand. So there is a young Candace. Now, this is discussing a lawsuit that we are going to look at in more detail in regards to her family suing the Stanford Board of Education. I'm not focusing on that right now, though. Talking about her announcing that she is becoming a conservative. So I don't remember this video, and I certainly did not see it, but her first YouTube video posted in August of 2017, Owens came out as a conservative. In the parody video, Owens' parents, played by Owens, are accepting when she says she is a lesbian. She is not, but appalled that she is a conservative. In real life, Owens and her parents did not have a sit-down about her new ideology, Owens said. I was not surprised, said Robert Owens, Candace's father, who now lives in Arizona. We do not agree on some issues, which I do not care to mention, but I will say I support her in bringing both sides to the table. Democrats should not assume they have our vote because we are African Americans, and Republicans should not ignore African Americans because they assume we are going to vote Democrat. Keep this in mind. 2018, Robert Owens' dad is in Arizona. This is, I believe, the Herald Mail. Yep, so October 19th, 2018. I've become way too familiar with Connecticut newspapers doing all of this. Candace Owens' rapid rise defending two of America's more complicated men, Trump and Kanye. This is by Sean Rossman. Let's go ahead, because a lot of these, it's pretty much the same stuff, guys, okay? A year ago, she was this new YouTuber, blah, 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 blah. But down here, this is, just so you guys know, this is the most accurate representation of who her parents are. Owens grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, the middle child of 3 girls. Her father was a property manager and her mother an executive assistant. Even as a toddler, Owens didn't back down in a debate, her dad, Robert Owens Jr., said. So we have dad, property manager, she's the middle child of 3 girls, and dad, by this time, is living in Arizona. These all seem like minute details, but I promise you they are not. Now, right here, this is discussing the incident in regards to the lawsuit. In 2007, Owen's senior year at Stanford High School came an experience that shaped her personally and eventually politically. 4 boys called her from a blocked number and left voicemails with racial epithets and threats of violence. They were calling me the N-word. They were saying they were going to put a bullet in the back of my head as they had done to Martin Luther King. They were calling me Rosa Parks. They were telling me that they were going to tar and feather my family, she told the Liberty crowd. The episode became inflamed because one of the boys was the son of then Stanford Mayor Dannell Malloy, the current Democratic governor of Connecticut. Owens, then 17, faced threats and harassments in school for weeks afterward, according to a lawsuit her father filed against the Stanford Board of Education. Robert Owens in his filing said the school district failed to protect his daughter from the harassment. The school board later settled with the family for $37,500, according to a settlement agreement provided by the board. The Stanford Police Department said the documents related to the case were sealed because those involved were minors, and a spokesman would not confirm the outcome, but the Danbury News-Times reported police arrested at least 1 student. So that gives, just a brief summation of what happened, and that was the impetus of her creating her website, Social Autopsy. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy with Social Autopsy, right? Basically saying that it was a doxing campaign. I don't really care about that. I'm not here to get into that. All of that stuff is common knowledge. But I also highlighted this sentence right here because when you look up, and I'm going to pull up her Wikipedia page so that we can look at it, it's painted that her father was not a part of her life. I don't understand why, because here it's her father's being supportive of her. He's not speaking ill of her. He's saying that it's comments from other African Americans that bother her father, Robert Owens. What really makes me upset are the comments she gets from her own race. I don't get why she's doing this. I mean, I do now, in my personal opinion. I'm just showing you guys the rest of the article. That way you can see it so that people do not accuse me of, trying to hide things or whatever. Let's go to the next one. We're burning through this because there's a lot to get through. So this is, again, I pulled this from the way back. This is NBC. YouTube tested Trump approved how Candace Owens suddenly became the loudest voice on the far right, June 23rd, 2018. And again, I highlighted this because, in less than a year, boom, she's in the White House. I mean, for people to argue that that is organic in any way, shape, or form, I'm sorry, that's just not realistic. And I highlighted this because I thought that it was really funny. Owens isn't just pushing buttons on the left after she blasted the Me Too movement for having turned sexual assault into a trend, predicated on the idea that women are stupid and weak. Charlie Kirk, her boss and the president of Turning Points, I don't know why they call it Turning Points, asked members in a group message not to walk out or boo Owens during her speech at an upcoming women's leadership conference. Owens called reports of internal discord fake news and says conservatives critical of her or her message generally are secret socialists. I'm sorry, I just thought that that was absolutely hilarious. Her pedigree. She grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and, according to her telling, was raised by her grandparents after her parents divorced. Owens rarely speaks of her immediate family, but often invokes her grandfather as a model Black American. At Turning Points events and in videos, she says her grandfather, Robert Owens, was born in segregated North Carolina, picking cotton and laying out tobacco from the age of 4 on a sharecropping farm. She says he went on to start a business, raise a family, and eventually retire in North Carolina, buying the very land that he had once worked. Owens went to the University of Rhode Island to study journalism, but said she was forced to leave because of an issue with her student loan. A representative for the university said that she dropped out after her junior year. So, what actually happened at the University of Rhode Island? Nobody can seem to keep their story straight, and honestly, at this point, I don't really care. So, according to her telling, she's raised by her grandparents. Now, this last part I had to include talking about Alex Jones, because you may be wondering why I included my Alex Jones schizo clip as the opener today. Alex Jones said at this time, she could be the next Megyn Kelly. There is some irony in that. Whatever, I'm not here to shit on your favorite political pundit, okay? I'm just saying that Megyn Kelly has said some wild stuff recently, some really wild stuff. We have the idea now, hopefully. Dad's in Arizona by 2017, 2018, right? Dad's supportive from what we can see. She says that, she was mostly raised by her grandparents. And we're going to see a little bit of variation within that as well. Let me go ahead and pull up the Wikipedia page just so I can get it done. Because they do cite their sources, right? She was mostly raised by her mother and grandparents from around the age of 11 or 12 after her parents divorced. Her paternal grandfather was Robert Owens, an African American born in North Carolina. Owens is also of Caribbean American heritage through her grandmother, who is originally from St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. That is the generally accepted narrative that, in my opinion, is pushed by her. I don't see anything to support that, and I'm not saying that I know the dynamics of daughter-father relationship. It's just, in these interviews, Dad seems to be pretty supportive, right? So what's up with that? I don't really know. You will also remember that she is the middle sister. Now, for this article, I did just do a screen grab of the first page of the article and then the section mentioning her sister, but this is from the Washington Post. March 8th, 2019. Candace Owens is the new face of Black conservatism, but what does that really mean? So it says that she grew up in a low-income housing tower in Stamford on the edge of downtown, what she remembers as a pretty shitty apartment. She's the third of 4 children and shared a room with her 2 sisters. Her youngest sister, Brittany Davis, please remember that last name, says that as a child, Owens constantly asked why, like a sponge that just wanted to be soaked for more knowledge. She went all in on whatever she did, from cheerleading to a 5th grade production of Annie, and stood up for Davis and others when she felt something was unjust. Whether she was wrong or right, Davis recalls she was always fearless. When she was 11 or 12, her family moved in with her grandparents. I had a pretty dysfunctional childhood, Owens said. I probably lived through more in my first 8 years of life than most people live through in their entire lives. She's vague about the specifics and says she plans to reveal what she endured in an upcoming book. Now we have a couple of family members. We have Grandpa, North Carolina, sharecropper, right? Grandpa has the same name as Dad, and then we have the sister. I'm showing all of these things, first off, to show how these stories vary. And secondly, that if you do go and dig, they've put themselves out here. Now, in regards to the lawsuit, because the lawsuit is going to be the bridge into getting into who her father is. But in order to do that, we have to look at the lawsuit and who represented them. Because life is stranger than fiction. And I literally couldn't make this up if I tried. It's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. So, here we go. This was filed January 9th, 2008. Robert Owens suing by and on behalf of his minor daughter, Candace Owens, plaintiff versus the Stanford Board of Education. This is page 1 of 2. This was the only page that I could get to download. It was behind some stupid paywall. These legal sites are all going paid, which is really annoying. This is from The Hour, January 29th, 2008. School pays $37,500 to the Owens family. I'm just going to say 37 grand or 38 grand. That way it doesn't sound like I'm having a stroke, okay? So, the settlement agreement obtained under the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, by the Stanford Times states that the school board has 30 days to pay the 37 grand to Stanford High graduate Candace Owens and her father Robert Owens through their attorney Norman Pattis of Bethany. The lawsuit was settled on January 10th. I'm just highlighting it to show you. Okay, this was filed against the board on May 24th of 2007 in New Haven Federal Court. The NAACP gets involved. It was a really big deal. And look, I get it, man. Kids are assholes, okay? Like, I don't think that any of this is cool. So this is from the Connecticut Post, from the way back, March 5th, 2016. We were children. I wasn't the only victim. Again, detailing this entire lawsuit. This was kind of her first time being pushed, not into the limelight, because I don't think that anybody deserves this, but you know, it does kind of put you out there. I did think that this part was interesting, though. Even after graduating from high school and the University of Rhode Island, I thought she dropped out in her junior year. The school said she dropped out. She said there was an issue with her student loans. But this says that she graduated. Do you see what I mean by nobody can keep their story straight? Where she tried to hide by using her mother's maiden name. Owen still bore the scars of what happened. Now, you might be wondering, who is Norman Pattis? Well, this is Norman Pattis. This is from the Connecticut Mirror. That is Norman A. Pattis on the set of InfoWars, April of 2019. And oh, what a character he is. What a character he is. This is from the State of Connecticut Judicial Branch Law Library's News Log, Attorney Discipline Law Appellate Court Opinion by Taryn Agati, May 23rd, 2024. So what are they talking about? Alex Emmerich Jones and Free Speech Systems, LLC. This is in regards to the Sandy Hook lawsuit. So Candace Owens' father and Candace Owens share the same lawyer that Alex Jones shares for the Sandy Hook lawsuit. Kind of weird, right? Well, maybe not. And again, I just took a screen grab of the first page of the article and another relevant page. He also represented a couple of the Proud Boys. This article is from Slate, June 18th, 2023. Defense attorney Norman Pattis, the documentary maker Nick Quested, who had infiltrated the Proud Boys. He was being cross-examined right here, but let's go ahead and let's continue. Right there, Norman Pattis, attorney for Rell and Biggs. He was not only the attorney for Rell and Biggs, he was also, I believe you say it, Owen Schroyer. Okay, so we've got Alex Jones, we've got the Proud Boys, and Candace Owens and her dad. A little bit sus, a little bit odd, right? A little bit odd. We've got to talk about Norman Pattis a little bit, okay? Because I'm going to show that his reputation was known by the time Candace's parents hired him. Because it is her dad that filed. I thought maybe they had misrepresented and maybe it was her grandfather and that her dad actually wasn't in the picture, but that was her dad. So she was 17 at the time of that lawsuit. Why is she saying that she was primarily raised by her mother? That doesn't really make sense, right? Well, who else has Norman Pattis represented? Judge frowns on accused New York madam's third attorney switch. May 8th, 2012. Only 3 months into her case, a suburban mother accused of running a multi-million-dollar Manhattan escort service is on her fourth set of lawyers. Anna Christina tried Wednesday to swap her legal team for a fourth time, aiming to bring on a veteran Connecticut criminal defense and civil rights attorney. While raising 4 children and rescuing pigs at her home in Monroe, New York, Christina arranged Manhattan assignations. I don't know what this has to be a misspelling for wealthy clients for more than a decade and boasted of having law enforcement connections who could protect her, the Manhattan DA office says. The former lawyers have said she was simply trying to start a dating business. Damn. You hate it when you have a good idea and the government steps in, right? She was pleaded not guilty to promoting prostitution, a low level felony. She's been held on $2 million bond, and since her February arrest, despite various lawyers' efforts to get lower bond. Christina is due back in court Tuesday for a decision on whether she can now be represented by New Haven, Connecticut based attorney Norman Pattis. There he is, Norman Pattis. Now, who else has he represented? Occupy New Haven, police officers accused of wrongdoing, and a woman charged with manslaughter in a car crash that killed 2 of her children. Really nice guy, right? And I get it. You're hiring an attorney, you're paying them a lot of money. That way you can win, but I'm just saying. So then we move on to her sentencing for the Monroe Madam Anna Christina. This is, I believe that says November 2012. You guys can probably see the screen better than me. Anna Christina, the native Scot and Monroe mom, whom prosecutors accused of running a high-profile multi-million-dollar prostitution ring in Manhattan, was given her promised sentence Tuesday morning of time served. Christina was sentenced to 6 months in jail, followed by 5 years probation. That's fucking crazy. Prosecutors claim she ran a $2,000 an hour escort service and made millions over the last 15 years, the New York Post reported. At home in Monroe, Christina lived with her husband Kelvin Gore, their kids, and 3 rescue dogs. She also took in rescue pigs as co-owner of the pig placement network. She pleaded guilty in September to promoting prostitution. Her lawyer, Norman Pattis, took swipes at the Manhattan DA's office after Tuesday's sentencing, and she is going to stay home, write a book possibly, and tend to her animal rescue work because, of course, she has an animal rescue, right? And so here we have an opinion piece written by this fucking weirdo, excuse my language, Norman Pattis himself, a tawdry tale of manipulation, exploitation, and prostitution, January 1st, 2014. We're not going to sit here and read this entire thing, but there is something that I want to focus on. It is interesting that he kind of talks out of 2 sides of his mouth, saying he doesn't understand why prostitution is a crime, but also acknowledges that many of these women are drug addicted and are desperate, and the men are desperate. So, in regards to her $2 million bond, we're starting on the third paragraph. Okay. Why a bond fit for a killer? A new book set to be released this month sheds some light on the backstory to this unusual case. Call Girl Confidential and Escort's life as an undercover agent has the tabloids and talk shows buzzing. It also has my phone ringing off the hook. I represented Miss Christina and got her set free after the New York appellate courts reduced her bond. Miss Christina was pulled off of the street on the Upper East Side and whisked to a secret location monitored by the Manhattan DA's office before she had a chance to call a lawyer. Prosecutors and investigators grilled her for hours, offering her an opportunity to work with them and presumably walk back out the door, if she would name names. She didn't talk, and therefore, she didn't walk. Rebecca Woodard, a 30-something lost soul who worked her way through several high-end prostitution rings, was also a target of aggressive prosecutors. How aggressive were the lawmen? They flipped her, in the noir language of jaded lawmen, turning her into an undercover witness. If she gave them information, she wouldn't be arrested. Miss Woodard is now telling all, and she wrote Call Girl Confidential using the name Rebecca Cade, published by Gallery Books, an imprint of publishing giant Simon & Schuster, a work giving new meaning to the old phrase undercover work. And I just thought that it was funny, who is the biggest pimp in New York City, the most sophisticated pimp, and they said the Manhattan DA's office. According to Rebecca of the Sullied Sheets, the city's top lawmen required her to continue to work as a prostitute, serving the likes of former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, whom she reported liked to get a little rough with her while she provided lawmen with information. Here's the shocker. After she'd turn a trick, her new pimps would require her to turn the money she received, and she might charge as much as 25 grand, over to them. Hot dang, that's gotta be some good. 25 grand? Jesus, that would change my entire life. I cannot imagine paying that to just have sex with somebody. Good God. This most unusual of prostitution prosecutions was never really a vice case. The unit handling the investigation of Miss Christina was the Public Corruptions Team. Its target, unnamed sources, either in the office of the DA itself or within the hierarchy of the New York City Police Department, who prosecutors believed were a little too cozy with the city's elite escort services. Where'd prosecutors get the idea that Miss Christina had friends in high places? Why, a taped conversation between Miss Woodard and Miss Christina while the city was turning tricks with its very own working girl. On the tapes, Miss Christina is heard discussing information given her by friends in high places. It says it's hard to know just when Miss Woodard / Kate is telling the truth. One claim she makes suggests she is, for the most part, reliable. In 2011, prosecutors pressed her to wire up and confront a financier who had once asked her to procure a child for illicit play. When Miss Woodard ambushed the financier, he clammed up, saying nothing prosecutors could use. The other co-defendants in the case, Janie Mae Baker, got a slap on the wrist, as well as the accountant. The accountant didn't get any jail time, which I think is super sus. But right here it says Norman Pattis, criminal defense attorney and civil rights lawyer with offices in Bethany and New Haven, and he has the Pattis blog. That is what we have for our baseline. Now, that book that he is referencing, you can find a copy of it. I just learned about this website recently called Book Read Free. It gives you a nice little preview. And so we have Rebecca Cade in Call Girl Confidential, and this is just a breakdown of the chapter title. Now, obviously, I was looking for Anna Christina, right? And that is number 10, The Last Great Madam. Now, again, not going to read the whole thing. However, she's giving a little bit of her backstory. She says she worked as an escort for both the Manhattan Madam, Kristen M. Davis, and Anna Christina, the so-called soccer mom madam. After the DA's swarm of spies stung Anna in 2012, she spent 4 months in jail and finally pleaded guilty to just one felony count of promoting prostitution. But make no mistake, Anna Christina ran the most successful high-class call girl business in New York City for more than a decade, with clients from London to Brunei, and I saw it all up close. And she says that Anna had only the most beautiful young women in her employ, and in order to work for her, you had to audition unclothed, and that girls were not chosen for surgically enhanced bimbo looks of typical escort agencies, but for their class and natural beauty. Now, here she's describing she's at college one day. This is in 2008. Her phone rings. Okay, so she goes and she looks. Her phone sounds during a lecture. It wasn't her booker trying to set up an appointment. She says, it was one of the girls I knew when I worked for Kristen Davis. So we have the soccer mom madam and the Manhattan madam. These are two different people. The famed Manhattan madam, a true New York character who overindulged herself with plastic surgery and who once ran for governor. It read simply, go to the nearest newsstand and find the article about Kristen. That was it, nothing else. I had not worked for Kristen for some time. I had moved on to a network so sophisticated it made Kristen's escort service look like child's play. Kristen was sloppy. She accepted gentlemen's credit cards, ran ads in the adult classifieds, and put everything into her computer. Right here, talking about the article in the New York Times that she found, $2 million bail set for woman in the brothel case. There was a photo of Kristen. She was on her way to solitary on Rikers after being charged with promoting prostitution and money laundering. Cops had found $476,000 in cash in her apartment. Holy fuckamole. They also found her black books, which contained the names of 10,000 men, including celebrities, athletes, and elected officials. Oh, you gotta wonder who was in that book. As the New York Post emblazoned across its front page days later with the headline Busted and a photo of Kristen with her ample implants spilling out, New York Governor Eliot Spitzer had been one of her clients. To be more specific, Spitzer had been one of my clients. He had just resigned 3 weeks earlier after getting caught with another prostitution ring. The black books contained all of the details of the client's sexual proclivities and what girls they liked. So she's obviously freaking out, right? She doesn't know what's going to happen. So she says that she calls her big sister, doesn't name her. Well, actually, yeah, she does. She gives the first name. But she says that her sister was a high level Republican aide who was on Capitol Hill when she called her. Her sister's name is Bridget. She said, yes, I told my sister that I had left Kristen's high-priced call girl agency long ago. What I had left out was that I had moved on to an even more wired and therefore more lucrative Madam Anna Christina. My sister assumed I had left the business. What did her sister say? Pull yourself together, go back to class and act as if nothing happened. So it is very clear that she's insinuating that her sister, who was a Republican aide at the time, was going to be helping her out. In regards to getting involved in going undercover, a detective met with her, and she says that she reported to the Manhattan DA Robert Morgenthau's office, and she says Morgenthau, whose father had been FDR's Treasury Secretary and the architect of the New Deal, had ruled Manhattan law enforcement for 34 years. He was 89 years old, but still sharp and straight as an X-Acto knife. I would highly disagree about this person being straight in any way, shape, or form, just because these things were still going on, right? This requires institutional corruption. What did Norman Pattis say? That it was cops, right? That this was almost like a corruption investigation into the NYPD. So yeah, Morgenthau, totally above board. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Well, we have two madams. You guys get that now, right? We got two. It's not just one, there's two. And we already looked at the pig one. Okay. Who's the other one? The Manhattan Madam. Well, there she is. Manhattan Madam Kristen Davis doing presidential campaign PR work for RFK Jr. August 2024. And, whatever floats your boat, man, but I would say yes. There are some clear surgical enhancements, okay? And she was the PR strategist for RFK Jr. I have been a head advisor for a PAC supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr., driven by my deep belief in his vision and potential as a candidate, Davis told Radar Online after contacting the publication following an in-depth Vanity Fair report that alleged, among other things, that he ate a roasted dog. We all remember the roasted dog thing, right? Okay, so there she is again. Like I said, whatever floats your boat. Not here to tell you what to like, what not to like. She's on Instagram, literally at Manhattan Madam. But right here, she says, I have dedicated the last 16 years to political PR and strategy. So if the math is mathing, then essentially, once she got done, she went right into politics. And I'm assuming that it was because of blackmail that she had on somebody. Why? Because in 2014, she was sentenced to 2 years in jail after she sold prescription pills to a government informant. So she was already done with her whole Manhattan Madam prostitution thing by that time. So is there a little bit of irony that she was working for RFK and she gets busted for selling prescription drugs to an undercover informant? I think there's a little bit, a little Illuminati approved. There's a little bit of irony there. I'm sorry. If you don't laugh, then you're just going to cry. Now, the next article, I'm absolutely not going to read the entire thing. I just want to highlight the timeline here and show, in my personal opinion, that the Owens family, if they were going to do their due diligence in hiring Pattis, then it's very likely that they would have known who he was and what he did. And this is just my opinion, okay? This should highlight what these people are into. I'm talking about the lawyers. So I believe this is from the Hartford Courant, from their archives published August 1st, 1999, Animal Rights. The first time he gave the speech, the one that would convince a Hartford jury to award a killer $2 million in damages, Norman A. Pattis stood in a barn on the Thunderhead Ranch in Wyoming. It's a 35,000-acre spread filling the remote and rugged Wind River Valley. America's most famed country lawyer, Jerry Spence, bought it with the money he's convinced juries to give him and his clients over the years. Thunderhead is home to the Trial Lawyers College, sort of a new age finishing school for men and women who make their living trying to get inside the heads of jurors and the deep pockets of insurance companies, corporations, and governments. Its founder and resident guru is Spence, a silver haired old gunslinger who argues cases in a trademark buckskin jacket. For a month every summer, about 40 lawyers trek to Thunderhead to learn from a lawyer who has not lost a criminal case in 40 years and a jury case of any kind in more than a quarter century. Spence has been called a magician, though not always as a compliment. An opponent once accused him of hypnotizing a jury with a pencil. Spence says he has no tricks, just a way of making ordinary folks see the truth and do the right thing. And the right thing can be very expensive. So we're going to get into who Jerry Spence is, but it's talking about how, Norman Pattis just got into law. He's relatively new. And Spence becomes interested in Norman Pattis's work through Pattis's representation of an individual by the name of Kevin King, a convict who claimed that correction officers beat him for assaulting another guard during an escaped attempt. If you've never heard of it, here's a case summary from that supermarket legal journal, the National Enquirer. It's beyond belief. A man rapes and stabs a 15-year-old girl to death. He's convicted, sent to prison, and then injured during an escape attempt. Incredibly, he sues the state for brutality and wins more than $2 million. It really happened. He was 24 years old at the time, and he raped and murdered Patricia Urbanski, a 15-year-old Polish immigrant. He was 6 days away from being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and it was a date he did not intend to keep. He also stabbed one of the corrections officers, right? So he's a real fucking charmer. Sorry, this really pisses me off. So some of you may recognize the name Jerry Spence. August 26, 2025. So this guy just died at the age of 96. How did he get famous? He won a $10.5 million case for the family of whistleblower Karen Silkwood. He also won a not guilty verdict for Imelda Marcos, wife of former Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, who was accused of looting her country's treasury to fund a lavish lifestyle. And it says that he has not lost a case since 1969. Obviously, I think that the year is a little bit interesting. And I don't know why this article calls Randy Weaver a white separatist, but he also represented Randy Weaver from Ruby Ridge. And he was also a legal consultant for CNBC during the O.J. Simpson murder trial in 1995. Founded the Trial Lawyers College in 1993. What a resume. What a resume, right? Can't make this shit up. Do you know? Do you see what I mean now? Now, this one I just included because I like the photo. This is just to show you guys. He's, I like cowboys. I get down with all that. I like my cowgirl boots. Yeah. But this is now called the Jerry Spence method. There's also a lot of sus stuff surrounding that. And one of the other individuals that is in that very long article titled Animal Rights in regards to Kevin King. This individual, Richard Racehorse Haynes, is spoken to at length in that article. And so this is his obituary from the El Paso Times. His initial fame came when he defended wealthy Houston plastic surgeon John Hill at trial over the 1969. Man, there was a lot of weird shit going on in 1969, wasn't there? Slaying of Hill's socialite wife, Joan Robinson Hill, whom investigators said died after eating an eclair secretly laced with E. coli bacteria. The 1971 trial ended in a hung jury, but Hill was gunned down in the driveway of his mansion before he could be retried. The case was the subject of Thomas Thompson's best-selling book, Blood and Money, which was later made into a 1981 film, Murder in Texas, starring Sam Elliott and Farrah Fawcett. Haynes represented Fort Worth oilman T. Cullen Davis, the first billionaire to be indicted for murder in the U.S. Davis was accused of opening fire inside his mansion in 1976, killing his 12-year-old stepdaughter, Andrea Wilborn, and his estranged wife's boyfriend, Stan Farr. His estranged wife, Priscilla, and family friend, Gus Gavril Jr., were wounded. The first trial ended in a mistrial because of juror misconduct. The second ended in an acquittal in 1977. Davis was later indicted on a capital murder solicitation charge, accused of trying to arrange a hit on his estranged wife and the judge in their divorce case. Haynes won an acquittal of Davis in that case, too. Pretty amazing, right? Guess these people are just okay with folks killing kids. And again, I get it. You're hiring a lawyer. That's fine. You're paying them to do a job. And these people are doing their job. And we're going to end with Pattis on this note from the Hartford Courant, June 8th, 1986. Worried about your masculinity? The polygraph lies. He applied to join the CIA. He hoped to become a, quote, operations officer or a spy. After almost a year of tests, interviews, a background examination, and still more tests, he faced the final hurdle separating him from a life of intrigue, the polygraph exam. And at this time, he states that because they were asking him questions about his masculinity, that the polygraph showed that he failed. And so that's why he was not able to join the CIA, allegedly. So we have a CIA reject who's clearly highly supported by Jerry Spence of Karen Silkwood fame. And remember that timeline, that was in what, 1999? So that was like 8 years before the Owens hired them. It's a little bit odd. Got connections to the Karen Silkwood case, connections to the CIA. He's representing the Proud Boys, 3 of the Proud Boys. Alex Jones, the Owens family. And so now we come back to her family. We've already laid the groundwork for who her family is. And we are told that Grandpa, she evokes Grandpa's name. I can't confirm or deny anything about, how her grandfather grew up, anything like that. But just so I don't get accused of doing something untoward, even though I've been very clear, she put this out herself first. So this is back from 2018. Happy birthday to the greatest man alive. I owe my spirit, my work ethic, and my Owens temper to you, Granddaddy. The KKK used to come and shoot bullets at our house, and my daddy used to grab the rifle and shoot back at them boys. Never a victim. Love you. You put yourself out there. It is what it is. So the people that want to report for like privacy violations or anything like that, no. That's not how any of that works. So now we know who her grandfather is per herself. Now we're going to look at his obituary. So this is from Dignity Memorial. Robert Lee Owens Sr., October 12, 1941 to September 6, 2021. Born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, son of Dallas Lee Owens Sr. and Margaret Wells, he moved to Stamford, Connecticut in the late 50s, predeceased by his wife Nola. They were married on October 25th, 1959 in Stamford, Connecticut, where they lived for 48 years prior to his retiring in North Carolina in 2008. Robert moved to Arizona. Remember, Dad's in Arizona. In the final months of his life to be with his family. But just so you guys know, because I did try to find these businesses, Newfield Clean Dry Cleaners, Owens Maintenance Service, and O's Cleaning Service in Stamford, I could not find anything. I'm not saying that he didn't have these businesses, but I couldn't find anything. As a Christian, this is talking about Grandpa, he was a devout Jehovah's Witness for almost 60 years. As one of Jehovah's Witnesses, he volunteered his time in many different capacities as a ministerial servant, elder, and a pioneer. Besides being a husband to Nola, he raised 3 children. 3. He was an actively involved grandfather, always providing love and guidance and inspiration. And it says there that this is written by his children and his grandchildren. And right here, so I'm showing these for a reason, okay? So this is someone calling him Uncle Robert, Aunt Nola. I will miss you, Mr. Owens, and my deepest condolences to Robbie and Veronica. But look at the top one, because I just read the one from Daryl Williams. Robbie, Veronica, and Ronell. Robbie is Robert, is Dad. You get it? I'm trying to make this make sense, because I have to walk you guys through all of this. in order for this to make sense. So here is, again, that way you can see I'm not logged into Facebook. None of this stuff is private. Okay? You can Google it. If you can Google it, it's there. It's open. Lovely family photo. That's fine. And again, just laying out the argument for who family is, yeah? Desert. Doesn't look like Connecticut to me. Siblings, yeah? Who's leaving that? Veronica. Just want you guys to see this. That way you guys know how I got here. Look, Veronica, again. Now, let's look at Grandma. Grandma's name was Nola. And it does say, remember, we read this in one of her profiles. Or actually, it was on Wikipedia. So, Virgin Islands, born September 24th, 1942. Death, February 2013, Fayetteville, North Carolina. This all tracks, right? Burial, Stamford, Connecticut. There's Robert Lee Owens Sr. Now, when you look through the census records on Ancestry and you pull up Miss Nola, again, all this information tracks. But right here, spouse, Robert Lee Owens. So I highlighted that, obviously, right? And why did I highlight the child? Because they're the same names, right? Same names. So there's not a technical delineation between junior and senior. Look at right here. Evelyn Davis Owens. Remember her sister's name, Brittany Davis? And then we just saw Facebook with Veronica. So Veronica Owens Cobb. So Ernest Cobb is the spouse. And then remember the comments in the obituaries. Veronica, Robbie, Ronell. So then there's Ronell. You get it now? This matches Grandpa's obituary. They got to the date. They were married October 25th, 1959 in Stamford. They left out the T, but Robert L. Owens and Nola Van Holten. This is just showing. I'm not really going to get into this side of the family, the Blydens, but I do think that this individual's history is interesting because they were at Pfizer as a chemical operator for 4 years and also served in the Navy for 22. This is Nola's brother. It says it down here. And then another sister, Ida Epps, lives in Stamford. This is from The Day newspaper, July 28th, 1991. So, does that make sense so far? We have all of that laid out. We see Davis, Owens, Owens Cobb, Veronica, Ronell, Robbie, aka Robert, aka Dad. I hope that all of that makes sense. Arizona. We know that Dad, I think the earliest article was 2017, maybe 2018, but we know that Dad is there. And I've blocked out the important information. Veronica Owens Cobb, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Arizona Properties. This is stuff that you can look up, but I did obviously redact the important things, okay? And just to show you guys that this is Berkshire Hathaway, so Americana Arizona LLC, doing business as Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Arizona Properties. Now, when you use these websites, these are free, they're on Google, and I'm not providing any personal information. They can be hit or miss. Got to do a lot of cross-referencing, right? And we see this name game here. Robert L. Owens, Robert E. Owens. We see junior, senior being used interchangeably, right? We see the email as well being used interchangeably, right? Now, on this account, it does show Grandma and Grandpa are deceased. It shows the aunt in Arizona. It does list her sister, Brittany Davis, as the wife. Obviously, that's very wildly inaccurate. But I have found her older sister, her younger sister, and again, you can't make this shit up. But I would like you to pay attention to the first email that is listed. Robert Owens of Valley Income, because that's going to be the one that's important. But just to show you guys that I've done my due diligence, that is her aunt, Veronica, in the J.M. Wright Technical School 1980 yearbook. I freaking love her outfit. I'm like, slay, girl. I just love old fashioned. But just to show you guys how deeply I have dug. I have gone in as hard as humanly possible to find these individuals. Because Robert Owens is a very common name. Robert Lee Owens is a very common name. I don't want to make any, it's not even accusations, it's just presumptions. She does look like Candace. I think she's very beautiful. I think Candace is beautiful. Fucking smoke show, you know? It's just whatever. So, now, as Operation GCD would say, we are going to play the game Who is Your Daddy? And what does he do? So, this is from bold.pro. Robert L. Owens Jr., Phoenix. Talented professional, considered knowledgeable leader, and dedicated problem solver. Brings 20 years of valuable expertise to forward company objectives. Attentive to detail, with experience in coordinating projects, programs, and improvements. Nice little website, right? Pretty jazzy. So, work history. Closing specialist for Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage, June 2020 to May 2023. Title coordinator, Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage, September 2019 to June 2020. Oh, look, remember the email? Valley Income Properties. What did that one article say? That her dad was a property manager, right? Remember I told you it was the only fucking article on the internet that I could find? So it's right there. August 2017 to May 2019. Talking about Grand Canyon University, that's in Arizona. It's all coming together now, right? Do you see how many pieces of the fucking puzzle that you have to put together? But we're here. Let's continue. Property manager, residential, Nelson Brothers Property Management, January 2017 to July 2017. Assistant property and leasing manager, Graystar Properties, July 2014 to January of 2017. You may be wondering why I have this one highlighted down here. Regional property manager, commercial, Bright Horizons Family Solutions, August of 2011 to July of 2013. What was he doing for them? Commercial real estate daycare centers, 4,000 square feet each, managed 45 daycare centers in Connecticut and New York. In charge of contracts, janitorial, snow removal, landscaping, fire alarm systems, and security during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. I'm going to read that again. In charge of contracts, janitorial, snow removal, landscaping, fire alarm systems, and security during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. Reopened all centers within 2 weeks of Hurricane Sandy in New York and Connecticut. Property manager, commercial and residential for the Mutual Housing Association, September 2000 to July 2011. And then energy conservation consulting project manager after that. And there is the rest of his timeline. But I think I'm going to read this again because it took me 26 hours to get here. Okay. In charge of contracts, janitorial, snow removal, and landscaping, fire alarm systems, and security during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. How do you like them apples? I would like to ask everybody a question. Do you think that Alex Jones knows that her father was in control of the contracts for Sandy Hook during tragic loss of life? I'm quoting her own dad. Do you think it's odd that Candace and her father both have the exact same attorney as Alex Jones for Alex Jones' Sandy Hook lawsuit? Do you understand what kind of insider you have to have the contracts, the supervisor of the contracts for that? Do you think that that is information that the public might want to know? Because literally, he just set himself in control of essentially the cleanup crew. This is according to her own father's resume. This isn't me pulling it out of thin air. So if you want to report my shit, go nuts. But this information's out here. Do you also now understand why there has been the name game and why she does not want to talk about her parents? You want to talk about insiders? You want to talk about the upper echelon? To control what went on that day. And no, I'm not a hoaxer at all. But to be in control of what went on that day, this is far beyond military, DOD family, anything like that. This is very deep. And now, do you see why I said that I almost think it's kind of odd that her family was in Arizona, where Erica Kirk's family and Erica are from? I don't know what connections there are there. It took me that long, a total of 36 hours, to organize all of that. It took me 26 just to find her dad. Why did I count? Because I felt like I was losing my fucking mind. So I'm like, Robert Owens Jr., Robert Owens Sr., Robert Lee Owens, Robert L. Owens. Like, I'm sitting there going cross-eyed. So I haven't even dug into that. There is now the possibility, it's just a possibility, of a relationship, between the Owens family and the France V, however you say it, Erica Kirk's family, since Daddy seems to be a bit of an insider. And so we arrive at the next question, because we've all seen it with our own eyes, right? There's something real fucky with what happened to Charlie. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I'm not definitively saying one way or the other, and this is just my opinion. I'm just not fully convinced that he's dead. I'm just not fully convinced. Go watch Program to Kill's 2 videos on Charlie Kirk. I'm just not fully convinced. I don't know. But that we saw with our own eyes, right? We saw that with our own eyes. And for all the Candace fans that have left nasty comments and gotten my videos reported and all of that stuff, she doesn't pivot. Fuck you. She's blamed everybody but Scientology. And you guys know if that happens, I'm going to completely lose my mind. But she's throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, right? Then we have Alex Jones over here with the incident in Newtown, where he goes full hoaxer, everything is fake, out of whole cloth. And that has set the legal precedent to silence dissent. Because again, I'm not a hoaxer. I do believe that people died that day. I just think that we don't know who died. In my personal opinion, I believe that there was a drill and something went very, very wrong. Very wrong. What that is, I'm not even going to pretend to know. But there are other people that I have met out here in these research streets on the internet who beat me for years and years that lost their channels for talking about this stuff. Now, I don't know if they were full hoaxers or not. I have no idea. But we have one side where you're allowed to just ask and make the most silly claims and just bounce around all over the place, right? That's Owens right now. And then we have Jones, where we didn't see what happened. He goes full hoaxer and there's a fake lawsuit, right? Because that lawsuit was fake. And the Owens family and him are represented by the same lawyer, the CIA reject. And I'm supposed to believe that Alex Jones doesn't know that her dad was in charge of the contracts for cleaning up Sandy Hook during tragic loss of life, per her father's own words? Get the fuck out of here. Okay? Get the fuck out of here. And I'm not telling anybody what to think or believe. If you would like to hear my super anointed stuff about the incident in Newtown, that's staying on my Patreon. I'm not going deep into that on here. I do want to show you guys, just to, kind of show you what this group is. Bright Horizons Family Solutions, right? There are papers out there, they're kind of like government policy papers. They're published in this magazine called Eric. Okay, so you see the little Eric logo down in the bottom left. Bright Horizons Family Solutions is the nation's largest provider of employer-sponsored childcare with family centers. I think I'm trying to read that. Sorry, serving 31,000 children for more than 200 companies, including Boeing, DuPont, Johnson and Johnson, Mattel, Motorola, and the United Nations. She this is the struggle right here, right? This is the struggle. The fuck you struggled. Now this is a position paper, obvious. So by Jim Greenman. The title: What Happened to the World? Helping Children Cope in Turbulent Times. Facilitator's Guide and Student's Guide. Bright Horizons Family Solutions, published in 2001, talking about how to provide resources for children who are traumatized by things that the government definitely has not done. But to bring it into even a more modern example, and fuck you, Wall Street Journal, for putting this behind a paywall, COVID 19 created a childcare crisis, and big providers aim to fill a void. The biggest players in U.S. childcare see an opening in America's caregiving crisis. This feels extremely nefarious to me. I'm just going to say that. National operators such as KinderCare Education and Bright Horizons Family Solutions, Inc. are buying up closed centers, reaching out to parents who lost care during the pandemic, and signing contracts with employers to provide nannies and daycares for their workers. You want to talk about unspoken victims of the not bioweapon? It's that kind of stuff that people will never know. You dig? Hopefully, you dig. I don't expect that anybody is going to address this, not any serious person. But for the people who have half a brain, in my opinion, I'm not telling you what to think, but I do have my opinion. If you take her seriously after learning this information and she does not address it, because this is not anywhere. I looked, I did my due diligence. And this is the probably one of the only times that you will see me saying, I did that. Because this was my hard work. Nobody helped me with this. This was me. And I'm putting it out here. And if you see someone jacking my shit acting like it's original, let me know. Because I worked very hard on this. I wanted to be sure. I'm not out here to add chaos and confusion to everything. I think that there's too much of that. But something has felt off about this media campaign and the stuff with Candace and Mappin. That was the initial, like, what the fuck is going on with this chick? And I was like, I've got to try to figure out who her family is. There are literal AI generated websites out there that give various definitions of who her family is. And they're all published this year. And they give the wrong information. They list options of who the mother is. I've found the mom. The mom's in Connecticut. And from what I've found, so are her sisters. And speaking of that, while I'm thinking about it, I have found, again, both of her sisters. Her older sister, Ashley, married a guy, and he's out here. They have a YouTube channel, okay? Married a guy by the name of Gavin Mistel. Gavin has a brother, and I would just like to show you this screen grab from the brothers' YouTube. Mistel Music, December 20th, 2012. Okay? When I say that there's something fucky going on here, there's something fucky going on here. And I don't know what it is. And I'm not pretending that I do. What I am saying is that everything surrounding her and her orbit is not organic. She's way more plugged in than I ever could have imagined. Because you remember the last stream, if you guys watched it, I was just being petty, saying that she should talk about, Newtown. That's her home state. Risk it for the biscuit, right? I was being petty. I had not found him yet. I didn't know that there was actually a direct connection. And if you think that you know what happened with that event, and I'm not pretending that I do, but if you think that asking questions makes someone automatically a heartless tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, thanks to individuals like Alex Jones, fuck you, because you don't know everything. And it's bold of you to assume otherwise. Because I don't think that people should not be allowed to ask questions about something that is blatantly not what we've been told, right? It's not what we've been told.